Good day to you. The next chapter that we're going to look into is the context of employee relations. Why do we as students of HRM need to understand employee relations? What is the significance and impact of this highly emotional topic? So let's take a look into the chapter. Now, employee relations has always been the working relationship between the management and the workers. The traditional concept was that laborers were to be commanded and control was the key feature of the relationship. Now, over the period of time, it evolved, and today we have a shift in approach wherein employees are given a center place. There is a broader orientation towards communication, clarity in communication, empowerment and involvement of employees in the decision making process. And there is a unitary perspective wherein the goals of the management and the employees are shared and it reaches a common point. Moving on, what are the objectives that we are looking for in this chapter? What are the unitary and pluralistic frames of reference when it comes to employee relations? How trade unions developed and the nature of industrial relations. What is the role of a trade union and its contribution to effective industrial relations? What is the role that they play in day-to-day affairs and in a bigger context? The roles taken by the main actors in employee relations. Who are the different stakeholders? What are the different roles that they play? The impact of human resource management on employee relations. What is the different tasks and roles of the HRM, the top level management and the trade unions. Now let us define industrial relations. It comprises of all the rules, practices and conventions governing the interactions between managements and their workforces, normally involving collective employee representation and bargaining. Now it is unavoidable to think about a concept called a trade union when you think about employee disputes on a larger level, because the trade unions represent a significant portion of your workforce. They bring out the issues and the disputes involved and they lend their voice to the employees. So it comprises all the rules, practices and conventions governing the interactions, involving collective employee representation and bargaining, which are techniques to bring about solution to disputes and problems involving workers and the management. Now, what are the IR policy and practice procedures in vogue? Now, it clearly defines your terms and conditions of work. Disciplinary and grievance procedures are set. How ideally discipline and grievance procedures need to be handled in an organization on a day-to-day basis. How do trade unions get recognized? What are the different parameters involved? Development of alternative mechanisms for employee representation. Determining the structure and scope of consultation. Now your traditional IR policy and practice covers these broad areas. Now what is a trade union all about? Let's take a look at a definition. It is an organized association. It is defined by the law. It is an organized association. It is a legal entity of employees who consist wholly or mainly of workers of one or more description and whose principal purpose includes the regulation of relations between workers and employers. So the principal aim of a trade union is to regulate the relationship between workers and the employers. They may belong to one particular industry, they may have workers from one particular skill or different segments as their members, but on the whole they represent the interest of a group of workers. Now, what is an independent trade union? It is one which is autonomous and self-financed and not dominated one by any particular employer or by any particular group of employers. So they need not take views based on the support lent by the employers, federation or a group of employers. These are financially self-supporting bodies. Now, what are the different processes involved? Like, let's take a look at collective bargaining, joint consultation and member services. Collective bargaining is wherein employee representatives bring about what are different issues and what needs to be done to resolve this dispute. They discuss with the management representatives and they bring about a solution by hosting discussions, bringing about different topics which affects the day-to-day performance or a particular scenario in the industry. So they collectively bargain with the representatives of the management, the employer, and bring about a solution. Joint consultation is again a negotiating technique wherein areas of mutual interest are discussed and solutions are arrived at. And member services, trade union takes care of the member services like sick benefits or your leave pay wherein the individual problems or the grievances of members of a trade union are taken care of with the help of trade union members, officials. Now, when it comes to employees, you have the trade unions. What about the employees? They have their own set of organizations. Let's say, what is the main purpose of these organizations? To general help and advice on employee relations issue. So an employee needs help on how a particular scenario needs to be handled. So employers organization gives them an idea on how a particular situation needs to be handled. To represent members' views to political influence in decision making bodies. Now, employers organizations and federations have a say. They have a say in the lobbying groups wherein your different legislations are enacted. So to represent members, that is the employers' views to the decision making bodies and the legislators. To assist member firms in the resolution of disputes, wherein you have a dispute which covers 2 or 3 different employers or a particular region. Now, to enable and assist the employers to resolve their disputes and to negotiate sectoral collective agreements with trade unions. So when the issues are big, the dynamics involved are significant, it cannot be left to one particular employer, so it involves a whole region. So employers, federation and organizations get together to negotiate and arrive at sectoral collective agreements with trade unions to have a better working culture and to move forward in the business environment. Now, what is the role of HR department in this scenario? Now, HR department has to exchange information with the office representatives. They have to value the presence of the trade union members, their contribution. So you need to exchange information which is available, and you need to discuss changes in work procedures or newly introduced rules. There should be clarity. If there is any change in particular, there are any technological initiatives or any change in the work procedures or timings or the regulations, it needs to be clearly communicated. Conducting disciplinary and grievance measures in line with the procedures set, involving the officials of the trade union. Now, giving a timely communication to all concerned. Implementing collective agreements on working procedures and conditions. What were the collective agreements that were agreed upon, and it has to be implemented. If it is not implemented, it leads to a wider issue, and what happens next is something which is big, and it can be controlled only by the involvement of the senior management and senior level officials of the trade union. So in order to avoid all that, you need to see whether the agreements are implemented in letter and spirit. So managing interpersonal and team relations. Now, before things reach a maximum, you need to ensure that on a day-to-day basis there is a smooth working relationship between different teams, different factions, and you have a good flow of information and the procedure is well set so as to avoid any bigger level problems.